So talking specifically about the benefits of an exclusive human milk-based diet, and as I may have mentioned before, we started using this diet back in 2009. So we are, advancing to almost 10 years of experience. And as I told you, it come from a very large NICU. So we have used this product quite a bit, and we have seen similar results. So when I talk about an exclusive human milk-based diet, I just want to remind you that I'm talking about using mother's milk first, supplementing with pasteurized donor human milk, and then using this donor human milk derived fortifier. So this is an all human milk diet. And one of the first papers that came out, which is why we started using the products, was that there was a significant reduction in necrotizing enterocolitis. As you can see here, not just medical NEC, which was 50%, but a 90% reduction in surgical NEC. So the number needed to treat to prevent one case of surgical NEC or death was 8. And so this was comparing, this study looking at NEC was comparing an all human milk diet compared to a bovine diet, which was mom's milk with a bovine fortifier and or formula. And so this is huge. And I don't have this on the slide here, but our necrotizing enterocolitis rates went from 14 to 16% down to 2 to 3% after the introduction of an all-human milk diet, and they've remained low. And thankfully, we don't have many surgical NEC cases. So additional benefits that have been published about this diet, and I have some data to share with you, but in general, there is decreased mortality, late onset sepsis, less retinopathy of prematurity, and less bronchopulmonary dysplasia. So what we're here today is to talk about is growth of preterm infants and how do we improve that. And so nutrition's a challenge, we all agree to that. And so we want to avoid postnatal growth failure. So we want babies to not go home growth restricted or less than 10th percentile for weight. And we know that the better they grow in the hospital, the better their long-term neurodevelopmental outcomes are. So we want to optimize enteral nutrition, but we don't want to increase our risk of NEC. And so for a long time, we've heard about growth in donor milk. And the concern that babies that get donor milk do not grow. And so there's studies out there that talk about donor milk is lower in fat, calories, protein, sodium, and calcium compared to formula. And we know that our smallest babies, less than 1250 grams, are at risk for poor growth and metabolic abnormalities. And one of the meta-analyses by Boyd and others showed that in the short-term period, there was slower growth when infants were fed donor milk, but there was no difference in long-term growth. So why would we think babies don't grow on donor milk? Well, if you think about it, most of the mothers that donate for donor milk, they have term babies. It's term milk for the most part. And that's okay. We just have to acknowledge it and change our nutrition practices and incorporate that. So again, most of these mothers are towards the end of breastfeeding their baby. They have lots of milk left over, and so their milk may be a little bit lower in protein and calories. And this is from a study we published in 2014, the Human Milk Cream Study. But we had 2 sites that participated in this study. And what we found was that, is this slide shaking? Okay, what we found is that mother's milk at the Houston site, our site, was 20 calories per ounce on average. In the San Antonio site, it was 17.6 kcals per ounce on average. So you can see, for whatever reason, our milk was higher in calories. For donor milk, our average calories was 20.6 compared to San Antonio, which was 19. And what's interesting about this is we realized towards the end of the study that we were using different donor milk banks. So we were receiving our milk from Prolecta Bioscience, and San Antonio was receiving their milk from a Human Milk Banking Association North America site. And so this just brings up the variability. And again, it shouldn't make us not want to use donor milk. We just need to think about it when we calculate our nutrition for preterm infants. And in addition, studies have shown that there's decreased growth velocity with the use of donor milk compared to mom's milk or formula. And yeah, if you give a baby formula, they will grow. But formula it's engineered. We know it has increased risk of necrotizing enterocolitis. So, and we know that donor milk, as I mentioned, is lower in fat and protein because it's usually donated milk from term mothers. So this should make us want to kind of concentrate on helping moms produce their own milk and pump early on so that early preterm milk that's higher in protein can be given to preterm infants. The other part is we're still optimizing the pasteurization process as well as storing milk. I've really discovered over the past few years, there's actually an art to the process of prepping human milk. I know that sounds crazy, and it's like, how do I get involved in these things? But through my work with our milk bank, we've really discovered that how many times you transfer milk from container to feeds, et cetera, can actually affect the fat in the milk you're providing babies. And then we do know that pasteurization, we need to pasteurize this donor milk to give to our preterm infants. But it does decrease some of the enzymes, specifically bile salt stimulating lipase, and that can decrease fat absorption for preterm infants. So what are ways or strategies that we can kind of get around this and still provide the nutrition?